Thanks for tuning in to today's video. We are going to bring you up to speed on the Kenmeri. Going back to some of our previous videos, you'll see that this car looked like it was almost done, but in reality, it wasn't. Lots of projects in the works, a lot of Fast and Furious stuff going on in the background, but we're over here at the body shop. This is our get down and dirty location where we do all the heavy sanding and grinding and all the heavy repair work gets done at this facility. In previous videos, we had already pre-installed the RB26 and all of the freaking magic that went into that installation.
Starting with the heart of the engine, we have a custom forged RB26. Some of the key points to point out right off the bat is that it's got a Tomei Arms BX8260 twin turbo kit. Originally we were going to go with a single turbo setup, that we were going to do a G3770 with a large AR just to get that top end. But we decided that this motor was going into the Kenmeri. We wanted more of a response setup, but still with the capabilities of hitting 600 horsepower if we wanted to. Now granted, this car is going to have AC, power steering. It's got all the amenities that the car originally came with. We do have a dual pass radiator that has been converted to AN fittings by Richard over at B-Side. We've got a custom overflow tank. On this driver's side of the car, what you see here is the air-to-water intercooler. Now this is going to be custom powder coated or anodized, so that way it doesn't take away from the engine bay. We're still undecided on the color of the valve covers, but we do have a M-Spec NER center garnish for the coil cover plate that is going to be going on the car. Along with the air-to-water intercooler setup, it does have its own heat exchanger. And the pump and fill port for the heat exchanger are in the back of the car. Because we did the air-to-water intercooler setup, we had to get the hot side to meet with the cold side. How Richard thought about doing that was he actually pie cut a oval piece of tubing that crosses underneath. It is not the lowest point. The oil pan is still the lowest point. And we are going to have a custom under tray underneath the car to go ahead and protect that oval pipe that Richard made, along with the oil pan and all the items that are underneath that could potentially see some road debris.
As you can see, it's in the process of getting prepped for paint. This is really, seriously, one of my favorite projects of all our cars because you don't see a lot of Kenmeris being built. The Akos are extremely popular, and of course the whole 32, 33, 34 lineup, extremely desirable cars. Let me really try to put things into perspective for you. A Kenmeri is really, in my opinion, probably the most iconic of the Skylines. And the reason for it is because it's really the car, the model that introduced the round taillights. Think about that. The later generations of the GTR, the 32, the 33, the 34, even the 35, and some of the generations in the 80s all have that iconic round taillight. And it all grew from this car. You know, the previous gen, the Hakuska or the Hako, those didn't have round taillights. The round taillights were really kind of introduced by this model. In the early Skyline days, when Prince was around, the motor company Prince that ultimately was taken over by Nissan, they had round taillights. But really the Skyline model, the Kenmeri, is the one that really brought the round taillights to the world. There's a lot to do on this car. So when we originally received it, when we purchased this car in Japan, it looked pretty good, as most cars do, but the closer you get, you find that it's been painted a half a dozen times, maybe. This car is no different. We took this car all the way down to its metal. It did reveal some flaws that we couldn't see before, and that's part of the reason why it's here now. The fenders actually looked pretty decent when we received the car. However, it did conceal some damage behind the fender skins. The backside of the fender is where most of the problems come to fruition on these early cars, especially being exposed to the climate in Japan. As you can see, the inner structure has definitely got some fatigue, and we're going to have to actually do some serious metal work on that to bring that back to life, and that's part of the reason why it's here. So we're addressing that. The bottoms of the doors, also on the inside of the doors, you could see here that there's some little rust issues that we're going to address, and we're not just going to fill it with fiberglass. What we're going to do is we're going to cut out the hole and we're going to remove all of the fatigued metal, and once that fatigued metal is removed, then we're going to weld in a plate, grind it down so it'll kind of replicate what you see here. The hood, unfortunately, had more issues than we expected, and once we started grinding all of the old paint off, we realized that the metal was so fatigued on the underside of it that we ended up having to buy a fiberglass / carbon fiber hood. It doesn't fit. It's not even close to fitting. We're pretty picky at Just Driven, and unfortunately we're going to take that fiberglass hood and we are going to have to rework it significantly. We're going to have to add volume to the sides so that it has a nice even fender to hood gap. But again, that's what happens when you're dealing with aftermarket parts. I would love to put a factory stock Kenmeri hood on it, just can't find one. And the ones that are available are pretty much in the same condition as the hood that came with this car. So we didn't have to do any metal work or replace any of the flooring on this car. The A-pillar supports, the entire roof skin is in amazing condition. The quarter panels had a little bit of rust towards the rear of the tires, but Richard over at B-Side already addressed those. And the trunk on this car is amazing. Not much metal work needed. So many of these cars in the spare tire compartment area are just absolutely thrashed. This car was an exception to the rule, and it's original. It hadn't been replaced before, so we lucked out. And the rear body panel, flawless. We're going to address all of the metal issues, and then we're going to move forward with getting this thing moved over to the paint side of our business, and we're going to put a stunning paint job on it. If you think you know the color, hit us up in the comments. Tell us what color you think it's going to be, and tell us what color you'd like to see it be. It is an original white car. I'm going to tell you it's not going to be white. I'll let you guys tell me what you think, and then we'll share with you what it's going to be. 600 horsepower. It's going to look so iconic, and it's so important considering we own 33s, we own 34s. Eventually, we're going to get our hands on a 32. We own Hakos. We wanted to have this generation, and it's something you don't see a lot of. You don't see a lot of Kenmeris at car shows. In Japan even, there's just not a lot of these things floating around. Mind you, real GTR Kenmeris weren't really they didn't manufacture a lot of those. It was in 1973 that this model was introduced as a GTR, and they made very, very few of these. We're going to put a really unique interior in it that's going to kind of pay homage to the original look from the 70s. Kenとメリーのスカイライン。That's the plan for this thing. I know right now it just kind of looks like a shell of a car, but wait until you see it lowered to the ground, making monstrous power. It's going to have the right look. Okay, so that kind of brings you guys up to speed on where we're at on this car. So I suspect over the next couple weeks, the guys are going to be going to town on perfecting this body. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done to it. These guys are actually working in the evenings, really trying to focus. We want to get this car done by January, February of next year. I really can't wait to share this car with you. I know it's not much to look at now, but just wait until it's lined up next to all of those other amazing builds we've done over the years. It's going to hold its own. It's going to be an attention getter. I can't wait to share it with you guys. We're going to take it to a lot of car events and shows. It's not something that we're building to sell. We're building this because we wanted it. So stay tuned. A lot more to follow on this build. If you guys like what you see, please give us a thumbs up. We have a lot of really exciting things coming down in the future. We're going to do some fun stuff that I think you're going to want to be a part of. So hit that subscribe button and tell us what you think. If you like Kenmeris, if you think this car deserves the work that we're putting into it. I know it's a car that not a lot of people think of. I'm anxious to see what you guys have to say. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, guys, welcome back to today's video. Actually, this is, never mind. I started again. What'd you say? What? You could see my nipples? Okay, what should I do with my hands?
Oh, look, a train.
Oh, so cool. Look at that train. I've never seen that before. You guys are dicks. All right, guys, welcome back to, I didn't want to say welcome back. The most iconic, that iconic round taillight. It's going to look so iconic with that iconic RB26. This car, just a virgin rear end, which is awesome. That didn't sound right.